Here's a place where all of us can be safe. Our stories of transformation can be safe, and all the things we want to research are safe here. This is Safe Space with Cheyenne. I'm really excited you're here, and I hope you stick around for a while, because I've got a lot to show you before I leave Earth. I love you guys.
Hey friends, I'm back with another episode for you. Today I have Lauri Getlan-Watson. She is a holistic creative catalyst. And if you don't know what that is, we are going to find out today from Lauri. I had a beautiful experience with Lauri. I was thankful enough to be watching the Empowerography live conference, and I won a gift certificate to work with her. And then when I did work with her, I had, almost another piece to the expansive puzzle. And Lauri was a catalyst to a lot of things that we worked together on. So I brought her on today to not only tell her story, but share her experiences on how she got into the work she's doing today. And then, yes, I am definitely going to share my experience of what I have with Lauri, because I think that you should also check out her work as well. So, Lauri, thanks for coming into the safe space today and sharing your story with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. So, before we go back in time and figure out how you got into the work that you're doing, can you explain to me what a holistic creative catalyst is?
Yes, absolutely. So with a background in art and teaching, I know that creativity and having a different modality than just talking it through is one of the ways to have a large breakthrough. I did it with my own life, which I'll share in a little bit, but I use creative components and modalities, whether it's through art, through painting, through line drawing, through dance, through music, all combined, through meditative processes in order for people to have breakthroughs, whether it's for stress relief, anxiety, productivity, working through limiting beliefs, being able to tap into your own intuition that you may not feel grounded and centered in with. It's an ability to be able to use your hands and to be able to touch and to feel your way through healing.
All of these are green flags for me from a spiritual perspective, right? Because we're always looking for someone to kind of help us not only add a piece to the puzzle, but like, are you safe to work with? Am I safe to almost unravel with you? Right. And my biggest green flag for practitioners like that is, are you directing me back to my own power, or are you trying to be my channel to the divine? That's a really big work for me. And when I personally worked with you, immediately when you popped up on screen, I just felt safe with you. I don't know how to like logically explain it to people. It definitely is just a resonance that you have. I looked at your work beforehand, and anything with music, painting, artistry of any kind, when you understand that this is a healthy way to channel natural emotions that come out of us, and that is like your forte, I was just, beaming with excitement to meet you and work with you. So how did you, obviously having an artistic background, but what made you want to like serve the community and almost, I would say, the collective with this type of work?
Oh my goodness. So I would have to say that 2.5 years ago, I think it's already been, I can't believe it's been that long, that I had my awakening, shall we say. Mm-hmm. I have been in the field of education for over 30 years. I have been an artist and have the art background for over 30 years. But I was sitting on my sofa. I'm a single mom. I have twins. And back then, I was 56 and a half years old. My twins were only 12. Okay, so we can do the math there. And I was sitting down and I just kept thinking to myself, I was looking around my apartment and I thought, like, there has to be more to my life than this. Like, I know I'm meant for more than just waking up in the morning, going to a job that I did not love, but was a security place for me, going to then come home, get dinner ready for the kids, deal with homework, deal with nighttime things, put the kids to bed, and then get back up in the morning and do the same thing over and over again. And as I looked around my apartment, I noticed some of my artwork. And I realized, you know what, that piece of artwork was like when I was going through my divorce. And that piece of artwork was when I was going through my fertility and struggles. And that piece of artwork is what I used when I was really pissed off at my bank account and not knowing how things were going to happen. And it was with that revelation that I knew, what am I doing? This is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm here for. I am here to show other people how creative modalities and working through things in a creative manner can bring you to the other side and can bring you out to the light. Because look, not everyone is a talker, right? Not everyone feels comfortable speaking with a coach that they don't really know or a therapist. And I'm not discounting that. I know it works for people. I've been through it myself. But not everyone, we're not all cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. And not everyone operates in the same way. But it's after the creation that you find your words. It's after you've gone through that creative motion and the meditative state that goes along with it, that you're then able to fully express yourself or recognize and say, oh, that really stood for this in my mind. I did not know how to articulate that and share that before. And so it's that process that gets us from point A to point B. And it doesn't have to be a straight line. It can be all over the place.
That's a really beautiful story. What came up in my mind a lot when you were talking was how, especially in society, we're all programmed to be really left brain, which is super masculine, very structured, almost rigid. And I think it almost puts you in a state where you intellectualize a lot of feelings. So I love how you are having almost like these mini epiphanies when you were looking at all of your right brain creations, which would be the feminine. And you're like, oh, well, that's how I channeled that pain. That's how I moved through. That's how I didn't hurt anybody. Congratulations to me for, almost like unconsciously figuring this out. But I love that you came circling back in your awakening stance. And I think we all come to that moment in our life where we're just sitting in some aspect of it, whether it's work, whether it's parenthood, whether, it's paying bills or taking out the trash, all of these normal mundane things that we have to do. And we're like, there has to be more to this. Like, there's no way that I incarnated on earth just to do all of these things. And I mean, yeah, maybe some people don't go into the curiosity of those. I'm definitely like you. I've had that moment where I was sitting at a job and I like flash forward my life like 40 years. And like, how was I expected to sit in this building or a similar building like this? And this is the only thing I want to do, especially when I was outside of work. I was practicing yoga or learning yoga or going out in nature. And I was just overly curious and almost like a dangerous curious capacity, especially in my younger times. So I love you breaking down, like just looking at your artwork and being like, I did that when that was going on in my life. Because I can say the same thing for me, but I don't have paintings. I have tattoos. Right. So like when I look at my tattoos, I'm like, oh, yeah, I should have gone to therapy, but I got through it technically. And this is like my stamp. This is like, here's all the lessons that you've learned in more of a, artistic format instead of all written down or just talk through so expansively with people.
Exactly. And that's 100% it. We can journal. I still journal every night. I put down affirmations and things that I'm looking at and building for myself and how I feel about things in my future. because I know whatever is on the other side is waiting for me. I have to just claim it and own it and live for it. But I also realize, like, source, God, whoever, whatever term you use, didn't give us 10 paintbrushes, our fingers, if they weren't meant to be used to be able to help us express ourselves. Some of us talk with our hands all of the time. That's another creative form of expression, right? I do it. I'm trying to hold my hands down below the camera right now. They're moving a mile a minute. But, I think that that's the fear for people, is that they may not know how to get through something or how to express something, or they've grown up and been programmed throughout the years that this is how you express yourself. And in some homes, you don't say a word, and it's swept under the rug, and we don't talk at all. And in other, perhaps it's all yelling and screaming and trauma with that and using words in that way. And it's so true that we're so quick to think that the spoken word is the one and only, or the best way in which to be able to recognize things in ourselves and to be able to work through things, when we could use 5 different methods in order to do so, with creativity being one.
When I look at certain paintings and then people will tell me the meaning of them, even if like I didn't see the same thing that they did, I think it's so profound that that's how they took all of this like brokenness or jargon or things that really didn't make sense and like pull it out of them. And I remember when I came across like Carl Jung's research, and he went into like psychiatric wards, and he was working with schizophrenic patients and people with BPD and all of these different harsh mental states where people just kind of felt paralyzed by their disease, especially back in that day where they had no choice but to kind of live their life out in a psychiatric ward. And he went and he gave them a paintbrush, and he was like, channel out what is coming through your vessel. And, a lot of them were painting the figures and the voices that were talking to them. Some of them, we're painting really scary things, and then very theatrical things, or homescapes or hellscapes, or, just a bunch of different colors. A lot of spirals came out, a lot of vortexes. And that really connected something for me as far as like proving, can I really channel this out of my body, or is this another form of escapism that I'm trying to like get into? But I think not only that work, but plenty of other work, including yours, that come after it. It just proves like these things come down through us, whether we're clear or not. They're going to get stuck. A lot of things do need to be understood from an intellectual level, but that's just one part of it. And I think with the mass awakening that's happening with a lot of people, we're going back to creativity.
Yes.
Just like, instead of buying from corporations, we all kind of want our own garden. We want to control what goes into our bodies because we've outsourced it so much that now we can't trust the people that we trusted with those things. Medical industry is another thing that I could get into. But when it comes to everybody bringing creativity back in their life and realizing it's not something that you have to leave behind in childhood, it's something that you could consistently be with. And like for me, I think being creative connects me more to source, God, spirit, whatever you'd like to call it. It connects me more because it makes me feel like I'm a co-creator. Like just as I'm having a conversation with you right now, luckily you're physically in front of me in the digital space. And I know like you're solid, you're dense, you're real. But when you get into the creative aspect, you really have to ask yourself, like, where do these thoughts come from? Where did that idea come from? How did that song get composed? How did that painter paint that? And you realize like your brain almost like back here on your head, it's like a satellite receiver, and you're going back and forth. So like, where's that signal coming from? And these are a lot of the questions that I asked myself when my creativity started pouring out of me during my awakening. And it was so many things, I'm sure just like you, which I definitely want you to expand on this. I had so many things like shoved down in me that when I was
Yeah.
writing and I would read it back, I would be like, oh God, this is like 10-year-old Cheyenne. This isn't even me, but like she's driving the car today. Did you have experiences like that when you were working through your awakening and through your trauma?
Oh, absolutely. I think, look, one of the things that I think is so important for people to remember is, and you touched on it, is in our childhood, one of the biggest statement that I hear from people is, oh, I would love to work with you. I would love to try it, but I'm not an artist. I'm not creative. And that is the statement that is the most false statement that anyone can utter. We're all creative. We are a creation, and it flows from within us. And as a child, we're programmed. The grass is green. The sky is blue. This is what a bird should look like. And it's that shutting down of the absolute freedom of creation that hinders us as adults. You know, it doesn't allow us to tap in, and we forget about that. We forget about that side of ourselves. And it's that inner child that really needs to come forth in order for us to have some of those significant breakthroughs, because a lot of the trauma and the heavy hearts that we carry around with us are coming from an earlier trauma that we had, whether we've pushed it into our subconscious and out of our mind or not. It's that we have to tap into. And when we're in that creative mode of creation and creating with art, that it opens up. That is when we do have those downloads. That is when we have those thoughts that source is providing for us that we can work through, and that we need to be able to tap into. But if we have that closed off mind, we're not able to do that. But just being able to sit down and know there are no rules, none, no rules. There's no right, there's no wrong. There are no rules to follow when you're working with the creative modality. That in and of itself allows people to just breathe and know, okay, I don't have to say the right thing. I don't know if they're going to take this the right way. I can't find the right words. My line isn't straight like yours, like no comparison, none. It's you. It's your own channeling that you are putting down on, whether it's paper or canvas or the floor or whatever it might be, you know, that you are bringing forth to be able to push things out and to express.
I think that's powerful that you keep going back to the non-judgment, the unlimited possibilities, infinite possibilities. And no comparison is probably a big thing that I would pop off to, because I think in creativity, especially with the way the world is set up for like monetizing arts and crafts, whether it's music, whether it's painting, whatever form of art, like you look at people out there that are on the grand scale of it, and it's almost like, well, why would I do that? And I think because that industry exists, it stops people from wanting to share, because again, comparison, they're not as good as this person that's out on this platform. So I think the work that you're doing is almost like a remember who you are thing. Remember where you came from, and you're using, I mean, the painting that I got from you, I still have to hang it up and put it as a canvas in my room, because it just goes along with so many other puzzle pieces that I have found. Like this painting behind me was a puzzle piece I picked up from an old boss that I didn't even know was a painter until I sat down and I just asked him. Like, I was tired of like the corporate jargon. So I was like, if you weren't here, like, what would you be doing? You didn't have to work this job. Like, what are you actually passionate about? And he's just like, I love painting. And I'm like, tell me more. And after an hour of talking to him about painting, he started showing me all this stuff. And it's this canvas he popped up, and I'm like, I'll buy that from you. Like, name your price. I want that. It was a piece for me, but right. He had no idea when he was painting that. He was just painting it for his love of painting, which brings me back to something else I'm sure I've referenced on another episode, but I heard someone say, you know, when you get an idea for something, if you want to make something and put it out in the world, at that same time, somebody else in the world is asking for that. And that's why you're being activated. Do you feel that a lot with your work and after you work with your clients? Okay, excuse us, folks. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're just going to try to pick up where we left off. I was just allowing Lauri to appear into a part of my story where I found a boss of mine who's actually a very creative painter. His name is Ben. I really don't know how to get a hold of him because he's definitely not my boss anymore, but he was one of the coolest people I met in that company. But I met Ben just through a professional setting. I found out he was a painter. He showed me his paintings. And when I found one, I was like, that's for me. I don't know why this is, but that's just kind of how collectively it works when you meet people in that capacity. So, Lauri, I believe, is a person that is giving you a piece of the puzzle. And I say that from not only personally working with her, but watching her work and hearing her almost client testimonials. So can you speak to us more about how it feels when you work with people? I know you usually start up with like an introduction. We do a meditation together. And, you know, there are definitely some clear senses, I would think, being activated in your space. So do you want to walk us through what it feels like to be that channel and that medium for people to direct them back to themselves?
Sure, absolutely. So I use the term creative catalyst, which is how you introduced me when we started, because I'm not your therapist, but I believe that I am that catalyst that gets you from one point to the other, but you're really doing the work. I'm helping tap into what you need intuitively in order to get there. And so as you experienced, I ask for an intention with my clients, what they're looking to focus on, whether it's the stress relief or if it's a limiting belief, what exactly, and to pinpoint it. And I always ask for this about a week before we work together, because I then develop a meditation for you, and it's your own meditation. I do it, I sit down and I get into my own meditative state. And I open up my notebook and I just start writing. And based on what your intent is, that is where the meditation comes from. So it's intuitive and it's yours. It's specifically geared for you and your energy and what you're going to need at that point in time. And so then when we do meet, I walk you through the meditation and I have some guiding questions, but I don't ask you to necessarily tell me the answers while we're going through it. I want you to be able to visualize and to feel it throughout the meditation. And then it's after that we have a conversation and that you share things that you saw, symbols, colors. That's if we're doing a color symbol energy reading together. And it's from that I then tap into, and while you're in a meditative state, I'm able to see color. So I read energy as color. That's how I pick up on things. So I could be in a room with people and I just see different colors floating around the room. And so, you know, I take all of that information and then I analyze it. I literally sit down and I work through each and every single color and symbol that you may have seen or related to and that came to mind. And I create a full report for you. And then I create a piece of artwork based on that. Now that's for me doing that part. But if it's the flip, then my client, I'm stating the meditation. But while we're doing that, my client is creating the artwork. And I am guiding. And oftentimes I ask my clients to actually look at me while we're doing the meditation and not to look at the colors that they're picking, because it needs to be intuitive. Otherwise, you start thinking too much. Oh, I'm using too much blue. Oh, I should have drawn a line further over on the right. You don't want to think it through. That's taking away your intuitive power of yourself tapping in. And so you would be sitting with me. If we're in person, I would have you look at me directly. There are sometimes where I ask a client if they're comfortable with it, if they put the materials that we're using out, even if it's just markers, to uncap them and put them on the table, and to take a bandana or something and blindfold themselves so that they're not tempted to glance down and peek, but to use that and then to move through the meditation that we use to move through the things that I'm sharing verbally and the feelings that are coming up. And then at the end, it's like, it really is miraculous. At the end, people are just, they say to themselves, like, I cannot believe that I actually drew this. I was working with one of my clients and we were talking, and her intent was, she said she's always feeling tired and she just doesn't know how to break through that. And she's constantly feeling like she's dragging and that she's not making any, she's not being productive. So I led her through a meditation, and she was painting on a canvas. And I asked her not to look, and she kept painting and just kept putting things down. And I saw her hands moving. We did this online, actually. So it was virtual. It wasn't even in person, which when you hear this at the end is like even more mind blowing. And she finished. She's like, wow, okay. I feel more invigorated and I feel less stress and I feel a lot lighter. And I always ask, because creativity and creation can be something really private for people, right? Not everyone wants to share it. So I asked, do you mind holding up what you created, your painting? She held it up and I looked at it, and I was at first hesitant, but then I said, okay, I need you to take your painting and I want you to lean it up against your computer or something. And I want you to walk away, and I'm going to write down what I see in your painting. I'm going to put it down, and I want you to walk away from it, and I want you to turn around, and I want you to then look at it, and I want you to tell me what you see. So she did. And she's like, I painted a sloth. And I held up the paper, and the word sloth was on it. She painted a sloth. Well, lethargic, tired, slow moving. What a better animal to portray, to come out intuitively than a sloth. Like, you cannot make this up, right? And it just shows the power that our mind has if we allow ourselves to just let things go and to not think and to tap into that intuitive part that we all have. We all may not know how to access it, but we have it. And when we allow the freedom to feel safe and to have that space provided for us, it's amazing what comes through.
I think it also shows the power of our energies being able to connect with each other on a level that none of us were taught.
Yes.
And if we were, like, it was probably like some grandma type figure being like, oh, these people are crazy. This is really what's going on. Everybody needs something like that in their life. But speaking from my experience with you, I had kind of the same experience with you when I was going through the meditation. Not only like the questions beforehand that I was kind of going through, but then we went through the meditation, and then I was like, okay, this is what I saw when we were in this area and this area and this area, because we definitely went through all of the colors in the system. And I remember one point you were like, really? You saw that? And you had your papers that you wrote on before and then during the meditation. And there were so many symbols that I was telling you that I was seeing, especially in like this region, which would be like the throat through the sacral, or the solar, I should say. And you were like, yeah, you held up your paper. You're just like, I'm not messing around right now. Like, I saw this like during your meditation. This is what I saw. And I think that's why that continues, like why I continue to do work and study and discover and research work like this, because it just proves almost like, not necessarily the quantum entanglement in energy, because I think that has more to do. I mean, I can't even get into quantum entanglement right now, let's be honest, but entangling energies like momentarily to just send and download information back and forth. Mm-hmm. I think your work is a really good example of that. And that's based on my direct experience that I've had with you. And I need to figure out a way to like put my painting on this episode, whether, it's on the podcast tile or however I can tie it in. Because I remember usually it takes you about a week or two, depending on obviously what you're doing in your personal life, and then you giving yourself the freedom to like, hey, I'm not going to rush this intuitive process after I do this and after I get the painting done. So, I mean, like, you're like, oh, you know, it'll be about a week. And I was like, this is going to be the longest week of my life. I want to know what she's going to make. And then when I got the painting back, I just stood there and I just like looked at it, and I was just, because it was everything that I did see in the meditation and more. You know, like yes, you're a catalyst, but the way that you were able to expand on things that I was working on, that I was blocked, you know, that had been in me from such a young age, that I'm definitely coming home to and knowing it's a part of my path. But to have that from an intuitive standpoint and be seen on that level and want to be seen was just such a powerful moment for me. And like I said, it just added another piece to the puzzle. And it also like helped me validate a lot of other things that I was either scared, critical, or had imposter syndrome about.
Mm-hmm.
It was just another beautiful channel to be like, okay, I'm not going crazy. Like, all of this actually is real. It is working. It's just on a very subtle, energetic, unseen level that does take time. It's like a muscle that you're building up to really go through. And I love earlier when you were talking about how there's so many people that are like, oh, I'd love to work with you, but I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I've met so many people like that, where they have such amazing, captivating stories. And whether they don't want to come on and share it, they don't want to talk about it, or they're just like, I don't create in that capacity. And you know, it does kind of break my heart, because from somebody who shoved down creativity for the longest time and just thought I was an appreciator of creation and arts and every facet I could find, coming into my own creativity has been one of the most life-changing, life-saving, and powerful things for me. So that's why I think your work is extremely important from a collective standpoint, because we do have a lot of people that I think need to be redirected back into that creativity. And I think that you're almost like a gentle bridge to get them over that and make them feel with that.
That fills my heart. I'm like on the verge of like tears here with those words, but it fills my heart to my core. And I think that you really shared a way that I hadn't thought of messaging in such a beautiful manner, because it is that gentle bridge. It is that non-threatening method of knowing that someone is there to hold you. I mean, when we worked together, it was so powerful. It was just like, holy moly, there's a lot here that I need to put down on this canvas, like, you know, in the painting and the work and the dialogue and the being able to just dive into all of it and to share with you what came through from me when analyzing it. I think that so many people have so much built up and so much fear that they are going to stay seated on their sofa, wondering, is this, how am I, what do I, where am I going? Like all of the questions, but not taking the leap of faith to be able to have them answered. And so that's what I try to provide for people. And for my clients, is that gentle bridge to be able to have those questions answered without having to fear judgment and without having to worry about, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? And just holding the space for you being present. That's all I ask, is for people to be present and to allow themselves to feel. Because so many times people that I meet, they're like, after we're done, they share with me, I never thought that I could feel like that again. Like I was numb. I didn't even realize I had those feelings inside of me until you walked me through that. And it came up for me in the meditation. But now after we're done, oh my gosh, all these answers are coming to me. And that puzzle is finally getting completed. And that last little piece that's missing in the corner is finally getting to be put into place.
Yeah, there's such a nurturance that I felt when I was working with you that I was excited to just share. Like, I shared my experience with any of my friends that would listen. Oh my gosh, this is what I did this week. This is what we did together. I get my painting back in a week. I'll update you. And then I updated, which I should say, not only with the painting, but you do get like an infographic almost of everything that you work through. So you can look at the symbolism deeper and see, you know, really what it means to you. And I would say that some things hit right then and then some things come out later. You know, it is almost like a reading in a sense where you're like, this is timeless. It's going to apply over time. And I have referred back to it multiple times because I've been like, okay, I'm getting pulled back to that painting. I want to see like what other piece of the puzzle is on there. But I do want to speak to the nurturance that I felt even just meeting you. I think you have a great aura. I think you have a great, you know, center of who you are and why you're here. But before you obviously got into that, when you went through your awakening, did you have a level of almost like imposter syndrome that kept coming up and trying to stop you? Because I know in analysis, we have paralysis. And if we can't get ourselves out of it, sometimes we are sent people to kind of, hey, like, come this way really quick. You're frozen. You need to unfreeze. What was your imposter syndrome like in the beginning?
Oh, my goodness. Look, I'm still working through it at times. It comes up, right? It's not always a one-all, be-all, done-all, finished for the rest of my life. But I had a really huge fear of being seen. Like, I was always told, if you don't have anything to say, just be quiet, sit back, observe, don't be too loud, you're too much, you're over-exaggerating. And I shrunk into myself, and I allowed myself to shrink into myself so much that it affected the type of relationships I was in. You know, the way that my ex-husband treated me, the way that I allowed friends to treat me, who, if you think about what it actually was, I wouldn't call them friends now. But I had to work through that a lot, the being seen and my limiting belief that, well, why would anyone listen to me? I don't have a full-blown business right now for people to research or to look at or to see that I'm hugely successful. I had to come back to the fact that, hi, I'm just starting. I just came to this conclusion. Of course I don't have anything, but I'm not going to if people don't know about it. And if people don't learn who I am, and if people don't know that they can trust me and see me and hear me speak and see where I'm coming from, where I came from, where I am now, where I'm continuing to go, and growth that has to come along the way. So being able to recognize that for myself was huge, huge. I did a big, large canvas called Doors, and a lot of it has black on it. And then I went back in and there was blue, and then there was silver, and then there was some gold and like some flowers and things like that. It took a process for me to get through. But I mean, I practice what I preach. You know, I use my own modality for myself because I know that it helps me get to where I need to go. So yeah, it took me some time. I still struggle with my limiting beliefs, but you know what? Knowing that I walk the walk and I practice what I preach, so to speak, I think allows for my clients to feel like, you know, even another level of safety. Like, I'm not just telling you what to do because I think it sounds right. I'm not faking it to make it. Exactly. Absolutely.
Well, since we're still a grassroots creator, I'd like to let you know my dog's water bowl is in my studio, so you'll be hearing him lapping up all his water in the background. Okay, so you've been doing this for a couple years, and I know when we first got on, you said, yes, you're still doing all the work that we talked about, but you are expanding and pivoting to something else in your business. So talk to us about that.
So while I still am doing what we've spoken about and fully entrenched in that, I realized that I was speaking to women and women only. And I started to do some research a while ago. And I guess I could say that it came about with, I'm located, in the United States. And it came about with a little bit of the turmoil, shall we say, that we're facing here and things that are happening. And I thought to myself, what about men? Like, men need this stuff too. But men are programmed that creativity isn't a manly thing. And we all know that men don't like to chit-chat about their feelings either. And so I decided to go beyond just the word and group of men, but really look at corporate men who are working in high pressure positions in corporate. And I did a lot of research with HR and corporations and what they offer for wellness programs. And it floored me. I could not believe the statistics. There are programs that are offered for wellness programs for corporations. Way under 50% of the men even take advantage of it. None of them are interested in sitting in a slideshow. And when they are in a wellness program, if it's presented as like a workshop in the workplace, they hear, how in Charlie Brown, the teacher, womp, 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 womp. That's what they hear, right? It's like the same if they have a spouse or a significant other who's yakking at them to take out the trash, or honey, let's talk about our feelings. Like, that's not what they want in that moment. They're not prepared for that. And they're already thinking 10 steps ahead of what they have to do and the pressure they're under and the deadlines they have to meet. So I'm now I'm going into the corporate world and working with those who are in charge of wellness for their corporations and working on bringing programs to different businesses focused on the male client within the corporation and bringing the creative process to them. And I mean, I have a workshop where literally you have a piece of paper, some spray glue, and a bunch of Post-it notes. No talk therapy, do therapy.
I'm hearing you, and I have a sweet little 5-year-old next to me just begging to show me her art as well.
Oh, let's see the art. I'd love to see it.
You did, babe.
Oh, absolute love.
You drew a heart. I drew a heart. Yes, you drew a heart.
Beautiful.
I love the work that you're doing, especially in corporate. I know that there is such emphasis on like the feminine healing and the feminine rising. But I do believe, based on my research, that all of us have feminine part in us, back to unifying the masculine and the feminine in all of us. And, I often ask myself, if these men really woke up to that side of themselves and started taking care of themselves in more of a balanced manner, instead of, let me just go like take some creatine and bust some weight. If I just get like a nice muscular men's magazine physique, then everything's going to be fixed. I just think that that's such a falsity as far as men taking care of themselves. I think so many men really need to step up on their emotional intelligence game. Mm-hmm. But there is such a fear of vulnerability and being judged or even being looked at as like a feminine aspect.
Yes.
And I think your work could really open them up to the fact that it's okay. Not all of us have a safe container where we can fall into. And even if we do work with somebody, we kind of have to put our mask back on afterwards because we're not in the right environment for it.
Right.
So I think that new pivot that you're doing is just an expansion of what you've already been doing. And I think the stronger, like feminine people in that work, like I really do think they are being called to help the men, because there are so many women ready. And then, there's so many men that are still very scared to not only be themselves, but dig into the trenches of their subconscious mind. And yeah, I just think that that's beautiful. If people want to work with you, how do they get in touch with you to do the experience that I had with you, or any of the corporate work that you're expanding into?
I think the easiest way is if anyone is on Facebook, they can find me, my personal page, Lauri Getlan-Watson, and just shoot me a message. Honestly, that's the best way. Or you can reach me with my email, which is Lauri, Lauri, at Lilies, Lilies, and Poppies, Poppies, at gmail.com. So right now, those are the two easiest. I would recommend Facebook Messenger first.
Okay.
And if they share that they learned about me with you and this beautiful podcast opportunity, then I'll know exactly where they're coming from and what they're talking about.
Wonderful. Well, we will have all of that information down below for all of our guests that would like to connect with Lauri. And do you have anything that you would like to tell the guests before we hop off here?
Oh, well, I do want, if you do go to my Facebook page, color is, as we know and we spoke about, is so healing. And when we talk about cortisol levels and stress levels, color can play a really huge role in that. So I actually developed a free guide with 4 core colors that can help lower your cortisol level. So if you go to my Facebook page, it's pinned to the top, and you can get that for free. That's a free download. And just know that all it takes is a pencil in your hand and a piece of paper and an open mind. And if we draw a spiral on a piece of paper around and around, it could represent so many things, but it can also represent like I'm spinning myself in circles. But if we take that spiral in the smallest center of the part and we imagine pulling it up so it's like 3-dimensional, it becomes steps. Those are the steps we're taking to be able to bring ourselves to a place of peace. So I just would like people to take that away with them.
That's so beautiful. And for anybody that does work with her, I want you to know that she signs all of her emails and all of her work creatively yours. And that is something that after I met Lauri, I absolutely adopted into my practice and into my creative work. Because, I mean, you really are just giving pieces of yourself, but also being a vessel for the divine. So I thank you for sharing your story and coming on here today. But also, like, I bow my head in gratitude for the work that we did together, because that painting really did add a piece to my puzzle. So I'm very grateful for the way I met you through Brad and the Empowerography podcast, but also just being able to work with you is a true blessing.
Oh, and a blessing for me as well. Believe me, it was a powerful moment. I appreciate you so greatly. You're such a beautiful soul.
Oh, thank you. I love it. I feel the same way about you. Okay, friends, well, remember, goodbye to everybody and to Lauri. We will see all of our friends on the next episode. Please reach out to Lauri and get another piece to your puzzle. Goodbye, friends.